Hi everyone, Jim Stringer coming to you direct from the music room in Austin, Texas, with another episode of TwangGuru Talk. On today's segment, I'm not the only one with a microphone because with me today is one of my all-time favorite performers. She's a great singer, songwriter, band leader, performer, and the reason for this interview, she's a rock and guitar slinger, Rosie Flores. My first exposure to Rosie's talents came when I purchased her eponymous 1987 Warner Reprise LP. At the time, I wasn't familiar with Rosie's music. I probably picked up this record because of Pete Anderson's production credit. I'd been a fan of Anderson's picking and his work with Dwight Yoakam, and I'd seen him perform a few times. With no internet rabbit hole to dive into, and this was pre-World Wide Web, I just did it the old-fashioned way. I bought the LP and I took it home and I put it on the turntable. I was, of course, impressed with the roster of players on the LP and with Rosie's voice, but in particular, my ear was drawn to the precise, rootsy solo outro on Heartbreak Train. I knew it wasn't Pete Anderson's guitar style. And then there was the guitar solo on Rosie's version of the Wanda Jackson standard, I Gotta Know. I always loved Joe Mayfield's solo on Wanda Jackson's version, but this one was no copy of the Mayfield solo, but another treatment entirely concise and to the point and totally in the roots genre, and I could not recognize the player. Of course, when I read the liner notes, I learned that it was Rosie on lead guitar, and I was smitten, and it takes more than a pretty face and a memorable country voice to smite me. It was several years later, as Rosie and I were both living and working in Austin, that we became friends. I told Rosie that I was a fan, and I think initially she thought I was just another dude hitting on a pretty girl, but she is my favorite country, rockabilly, and blues singer, and she is an always amazing guitar picker with original ideas and an adventuresome spirit. Because of her interest in all things guitar, I bestowed upon her my highest honorific title, Guitar Nerd. We've been working now together for the last 7 or 8 years in the Blue Moon Jazz Quartet, playing the American Songbook and slowly but surely cranking out a record. So she's now added jazz chanteuse to her resume. I asked Rosie if I could interview her for one of my TwangGuru talks, and as we start this conversation, I was looking at some pictures that she had just sent me of her early band experience. And that's why I'm staring at my cell phone. And I'll just dive in now, and I'll let Rosie talk now. It's
Am I playing the SG or the Silvertone or the Teardrop? Yeah, so that's my very first band shot ever, and we were performing at the high school auditorium. That was my first gig.
And this one looks like an SG.
Yep, I had an SG, but some people are telling me that since it has that swirly, I didn't have time to do research on it. Like 3:30 came so fast for me today, but I have been told that that is some kind of a Les Paul Jr.
That's what Gibson actually changed. You know, originally the Les Pauls were like we know them today, but that was the original Les Paul. And then they went through an era where the Les Pauls look like what we know as an SG today. And they had a Les Paul custom. And, you know, we can sit down and look at all my guitar catalog. I think I did show you the Gibson catalog.
I love your guitar catalogs. It's guitar porn for me.
I'm such a nerd. And unfortunately, Rosie, you are too.
I know you are, but what am I? Speaking of guitar nerds, I was talking to Deke Dickerson today because I was hoping he could help me find out what the name of that Silvertone was. But he called it 1423 Harmony Stratotone, which they made them in black.
That's a Silvertone there, isn't it?
No, this is my Bob. Yeah, it is, but it's a Bobcat Silvertone.
Okay. And then I can see the telly.
I don't know if you ever saw this little guitar, but it weighs like 5 pounds, and it's just a cute little guitar. It's got a floating bridge on it, So, and it's got these little pickups. Oh darn, diamond. They're called DeArmond diamonds, diamond flake DeArmonds or something like that. My friend Ricky Ray.
The gold foil.
But it's a really fun guitar. This is the guitar I was playing when Elvis Costello came to my gig in London, and I was wishing
Cool.
I was so wishing I had my James Trussart, but I couldn't tour with it for 3 weeks because it's so heavy. And he's going to be making me another lighter version, but we just didn't have it yet. And then the Corona thing happened, so I'll get it. I'll get a lighter Trussart one of these days. But the next shape he's going to make me is going to be like the Les Paul shape.
Oh, now the Les Paul shape, like the 50s Les Paul shape or the 60s Les?
The one that like Les Paul plays with Mary Ford, that shape.
Which I think they call a C shape. Is it a fatter neck? You like a bigger neck or a smaller neck?
I like this. I'm a small neck girl because I got little hands.
Yeah.
I'm little, but I'm loud. And it's, I like Les Paul have some arthritis in my hands. So the easier the grip is for me, the better at my age. And every once in a while I have some problems with my thumb because I've been playing since I was 16 years old. And now I'm going on 70. So it's been a lot of work for that little thumb all these years, abusing that hand.
I mean, I have the arthritis too, and I have also lower back and shoulder issues, which, holy cow, I played a Les Paul custom for many years of touring. And
I don't know how you did that. That must have been so hard. But I know why you did it, because they sound so beautiful. What amp did you play through when you had the Les Paul? Did you play through a Marshall or did you play through a Twin?
No, I had actually a couple of different amps I used over the time, and these are questions for you, not for me. But
I know, right?
I started out with a custom 200, the rolled and pleated.
Oh yeah.
And they were so clean. It's just like, you couldn't really get a gnarly tone out of them. And
I know.
The built-in distortion just sounded like a buzzsaw.
Well, I actually played one for a little while when I was in San Diego, and I just played through a Super Reverb, and I thought it sounded amazing. It was a 60s black reissue. Yeah. I can't remember the exact year. It could have been like a 68 or something, but it had the black face strip on the top, and but oh boy, I could never lift it. I always had to have guys put it in for me. I think I might have lifted it 3 times and regretted what it did to my back. But, I still use them at the Continental Club in Austin. The sound people will always put one up there for me, so I can do that,
You just have to have somebody to help. I mean, I reached a point in life where I couldn't carry my twin reverb up. I played at places that had fire. You had to go up fire escapes to get to the stage.
Oh my goodness gracious, yeah, because they're really about as heavy as the Super Reverbs. They're so heavy. Well, I had one, I think, for about 6 months, and then I thought it was too clean, but I did like the way it sounded when I played the Les Paul. I thought that was a nice marriage with that. At least when I was in that one band, it worked for me fine. I was the 3rd guitar player in line. I wasn't the top or the second. I was the 3rd guitar player. So it didn't really matter how I sounded that much anyway.
Have you seen any of those videos on YouTube of the band Fanny?
Yeah, I know those girls. And I remember when I was living in LA, they were having their heyday, and there used to be a big billboard on Sunset Boulevard of them, and it was a shot of them taken from behind where you could see their fannies, and they had their hands in each other's back pockets of their jeans. But I do communicate now and again with June Millington. And I've met Jean Millington because she used to be married to Earl Slick, who's a friend of mine that who was David Bowie's guitar player. And I met their daughter and son that they had together. And yeah, I'm really familiar with Fanny and I. They used to do that one song. What was it? Ain't soup, don't. I can't think of the word. What was it? It was their big hit. It was
Yeah.
don't, don't, don't. I just kind of remember like the melody of it. It was like an old Sam Cooke song or something. It'll come to me in a minute.
I've really had fun watching their videos because they're a kick-ass band, you know. They're just really, they really rocked, you know.
Holy cow! And they had a reunion, I think, for a little while. Unfortunately, Jean had a stroke, and she's doing a lot better. But I believe she might still be in a wheelchair. So unfortunate when the stroke hits you. You know, that's what I just like. Please don't let me get a stroke.
Yeah, I know, Rosie, you and me both.
This is like I want to try to be as healthy as I can, and watch my fat intake and work out, and you have to think of those things when you get older. But when you feel like you're still in your 20s, it's hard to think that way. Like you don't think like an old person has to eat old people food, or do old people things. You're just like, hey, I'm still in my 30s. I'm going to go get a pizza and some ice cream cones and have, cheese enchiladas. And
the very young mindset.
At least you and I don't smoke cigarettes. So
I know. I quit. I did smoke for a while, you know. And up until I was only 26 when I quit.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So it's been 46 years. Is that possible? Good golly. Which one was your first guitar then?
So my first guitar was the little silver tone made by in the harmony world they called it the Harmony Stratotone, and but it was really a silver tone 1420. It could be the 1420 or the 1423. I'm not sure. Deke Dickerson and I were trying to figure it out, but it was originally bought for my brother in San Diego. There was a store called FedMart. I don't know that they had FedMarts in Texas here, but in California it was like Walmart basically, and so you could buy electric guitars there. It wasn't quite like Sears, but kind of like a Sears. And my brother was telling me a story of he went to go see. He might have been to the Ash Grove because he said it was a club on the Santa Monica Pier. And I believe that's where the Ash Grove used to be. And he saw, remember that band Spirit? And the guitar player's name
Does Mark Andes still live here in Austin?
Oh, that's right. Mark Andes used to be in Spirit.
Randy California.
Yeah, so Randy California, the guitar player, was playing one. And that was, I believe, in the 60s. And my brother said, hey, he's playing the exact guitar that I have, only it's in black. So that was the picture that I got from Deke today, was the black version of it. However, they didn't say that the finishes came in any other color than black. So that's why I'm not 100% sure. But that was the first guitar I played when I started my first all-girl band. We were called Penelope's Children. And we named it after Penelope and Odysseus, the Greek mythology, and they had children in the story and stuff. And so we were Penelope's children, So, but yeah, that was kind of that psychedelic era. And well, I don't know that it was exactly my brother who propelled me into it. What was going on in my life was that I was always an entertainer of sorts, and I started recording with my dad on the 2-track as early as 6.5 and 7 years old. There's some recordings. Actually, you probably have where I'm singing, I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter. And I'm 7 years old, and we put it on my Rockabilly Philly CD, just a little smidget of that recording. And so I was always singing and standing in front of the mirror and singing. And I was in tap and ballet, and I was always on stages and always singing and, ta-da. And so by the time the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and all that music happened, my brother was in a band. And so I started knocking on his bedroom door saying, can you show me how to play a couple of chords? Because I would always ask him to back me so I could sing. And I would go and I remember singing Heat Wave with his band. That would have been around 1966 or something, And so I said, can you just show me how to play 3 chords, and I can back my own self, So I ended up buying a little, which would actually, I forgot about this, Jim, but this would actually be my very first guitar. Was an acoustic guitar. It was an Aria. And it was I wanted a nylon string so it wouldn't hurt I wouldn't get as horrible of blisters on my little teenage fingers. And I would sit there, and my father helped me buy it, but I remember the payments were $10 a month, and it was a $40 guitar. Wow. And so I babysat next door, and at 50 cents an hour, I was able to pay for the guitar in 4 months. And it's really funny because after I started Penelope's Children, 2 years later, my father took me and the girls down to the music store, and he signed for about $5,000 worth of gear. And that's where I was able to get the teardrop box guitar, because I was a really big fan. I became a really big fan of the Rolling Stones, and I loved Brian Jones. Had a big crush on Brian Jones with his blonde bangs, and I found out later he was kind of a creep to his girlfriends, but I thought he was really cool, and he was the one that came up with the name the Rolling Stones. And he was a really great musician, aside from his maybe not such good manners with women. But anyway, my teardrop was black rather than white. His was white with a black pickguard, and mine was black with I think it was a white pickguard. I sent you the picture. But you know what I did? I wanted to be cool, so I remember those little doilies that you would get back in those days, and you'd be at parties, and they put doilies out at parties that looked like lace. And I put the doily over the black guitar, and I was into art during that time, and I took acrylic purple, really bright acrylic purple paint, and I used the lace doily as a stencil, and I filled in each little hole. So when it was finished, it had purple lace all over the black guitar. And you can see that in that picture. And on some of the pictures, oh man, I wish I had that guitar back. It sounded so great. And we were just like a power trio. My drummer, she was a badass, and my bass player was so musical. She was like having Paul McCartney in your band. I mean, I just happened to be in school with other girls that I met when I went up for the audition to try to get in the school show. And I went in there with an acoustic guitar, and they said, you've got it, And so I met the other girls at the audition, and I called them up and I said, hey, I asked my brother's band, they were called the Czechs, and they were really cool. And it was my brother and a guy named Dana Ferris and his brother, Mark Ferris. and they had, of course, bass player. I can't remember the bass player's name, and then a drummer named Tony Crisosimo. And for young kids, they were really talented. The drummer was studied jazz, and so anyway, they really rocked out. And I asked them if we could borrow their gear for the school show, and they said, yeah, sure. And so I called up a girl that I knew that played drums in the morning, do 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 do, when you had to stand there and put your hand on your heart when they raised the flag. She would do, they would play taps and she would do drum roll. So anyway, she had a whole trap set, and then and Vicki could play guitar, and I asked her if she wanted to be the bass player. And then a girl named Diane Wilbanks, who was a great harmony singer. It was like singing with the Everly Brothers when I got to sing with her. It was like we were the Everly Sisters, great harmony singer. So we did pretty good for teenage girls jumping into rock and roll, and so I was really happy to all of a sudden be in a band and get to do that. It was like a dream come true. It was like maybe the equivalent of a young girl now discovering rock camp and getting to go to rock camp. Only rock camp was in my garage.
You've mentored one of those, haven't you?
I did. When Emily Marks was directing it, I did a couple of years worth of mentoring, and worked with some really young girls who wanted to play guitar, and now they're all older, and a bunch of them are still at it. They stayed with it.